The B-17's story began in 1934, when the U.S. Army Air Corps issued a requirement for a multi-engine bomber capable of carrying a 2,000-pound bomb load over 2,000 miles at speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour. Boeing's answer was the Model 299, a sleek, all-metal monoplane with 4 engines and 5 defensive gun positions. When the prototype first took to the skies on July 28, 1935, it impressed everyone. During its unveiling, a Seattle Times reporter, struck by the multiple gun mounts protruding from its fuselage, dubbed it the Flying Fortress. Boeing wasted no time trademarking the name. The prototype's future seemed bright until disaster struck. During a test flight for the Army, the Model 299 crashed due to the flight crew forgetting to disengage the gust locks. 2 men were killed, and the Army's initial contract went instead to the smaller Douglas B-18. But the Army Air Corps still saw promise in Boeing's design. They ordered a small batch of YB-17s for further evaluation. It was the start of a slow, steady path toward one of the most famous aircraft in history. Early versions of the B-17, like the B-17B and C, had modest defensive firepower and lacked some of the armor that would later become standard. But wartime urgency accelerated its evolution. By 1941, with war looming, Boeing rolled out the B-7E, a stronger, longer-range version with a larger tail for stability, a powered tail gun position, and more armor. The B-17F improved engines and fuel capacity, but Luftwaffe pilots soon exploited its lack of frontal protection. The result was the B-7G, the definitive model, featuring a distinctive chin turret armed with twin 50-caliber machine guns to counter deadly head-on attacks. In total, 12,731 B-17s were built by Boeing, Douglas, and Lockheed Vega during the war. One of the most advanced features of the B-17 was the Norden bombsight, a closely guarded American military secret. The Norden was a mechanical analog computer that allowed a bombardier to calculate the exact release point for bombs, factoring in airspeed, altitude, wind, and even the Earth's rotation. During training, bombardiers swore an oath to protect the device, and it was often covered before takeoff and destroyed if an aircraft went down in enemy territory. The Norden gave the B-17 its reputation for daylight precision bombing. In theory, from 25,000 feet, a skilled bombardier could drop a bomb into a pickle barrel. In reality, combat conditions, flak, evasive maneuvers, cloud cover, made that impossible. Still, the Norden gave the Allies a critical advantage in hitting strategic targets deep within Germany's industrial network. The B-17's combat baptism came in 1941 when the British Royal Air Force tested it in limited numbers. But it wasn't until the United States entered the war that the Flying Fortress truly took to the skies in force. The 8th Air Force, based in England, used the B-17 as its primary heavy bomber for daylight raids. Crews flew in tight box formations, each aircraft's overlapping fields of fire protecting the group against attacking fighters. At altitudes of over 25,000 feet, the air was freezing, oxygen was scarce, and every mission meant a gauntlet of flak bursts and Messerschmitts. Some missions became infamous. The 1943 raids on the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt and the Messerschmitt works at Regensburg resulted in catastrophic losses, in some cases over a quarter of the aircraft failing to return. But the campaign forced Germany to divert massive resources to air defense, drawing away men and materials from the front. Among the thousands of B-17s, a few names stand out. Memphis Belle, one of the first bombers to complete 25 missions over Europe with its crew intact. Brought home for a war bond tour, it became an icon of American perseverance. Its story inspired both a 1944 documentary and the 1990 feature film. 909, a B-17G of the 91st Bomb Group that flew an astonishing 140 missions without losing a single crew member in combat. The Swoose, a unique hybrid B-7D that served from the Philippines to the United States and is one of the oldest surviving B-17s today. Ye Olde Pub, a severely damaged B-17 famously spared by German ace Franz Stigler, who escorted it out of German airspace rather than shoot it down, in one of the most remarkable stories of honor in aerial combat. The B-17 was the backbone of America's strategic bombing offensive in Europe. By war's end, B-17 crews flew more than 290,000 sorties. They dropped 640,000 tons of bombs on enemy targets. Nearly 5,000 B-17s were lost in combat. Tens of thousands of airmen were killed or captured, with casualty rates among bomber crews among the highest of the war. These numbers tell a story not only of the aircraft's capability, but also of the immense sacrifice of the men who flew them. While Europe was its main stage, the B-17 also served in the Pacific, especially in the early years. They flew long-range patrols, attacked shipping, and struck at Japanese island bases. However, the vast distances of the Pacific theater eventually made the longer-ranged B-24 Liberator the dominant heavy bomber there. After the war, the B-17 found new roles. Some became search and rescue aircraft, painted in bright colors and equipped with lifeboats. Others served as reconnaissance platforms, drone controllers, or even firefighting tankers. Today, fewer than 50 survive in museums and private collections, and only about a dozen still fly. When one takes to the air at an air show, its deep, resonant roar draws veterans, historians, and aviation fans to look skyward in respect. The B-17 wasn't the fastest bomber of the war, nor did it carry the largest payload, but it earned a reputation unmatched for toughness and reliability. Crews often said, "She brought us home," and in war, there is no higher praise. The B-17 Flying Fortress was more than an airplane. It was a symbol of American industrial power, of the bravery of its crews, and of a belief that strategic bombing could shorten the war. From the frozen altitudes over Germany to the tropical skies of the Pacific, from the factory floor to the combat box formation, the B-17 became a legend not because of what it could do on paper, but because of what it endured in the air. A true flying fortress, a machine that even today inspires awe and respect.